Greetings everyone. Welcome to this afternoon's webinar on the theme TBH, to be human, reintegration in the new normal. My name is Clyde Rex Gesalva, a faculty member of the Theology Department at Ateneo de Naga University. I will be your MC this afternoon. To formally start, may I invite everyone to join us in the invocation to be led by the Ateneo de Naga University Choir.
I beg to fall in love with Thee, my Lord, with every breath of life I take. I beg to fall in love with Thee, my Lord, its every beat I to Thee forsake. For even if my thoughts fall short of knowing you, and even if my will runs terrified, your passion fills the darkness of my soul, sheds its light, breathes its life, stills the murmur of the night. I beg to fall in love with Thee, my Lord, with every breath of life I take. I beg to fall in love with Thee, my Lord, its every beat I to Thee forsake. For even if my heart falls short of loving you, and even if my spirit hides away, your love for me surpasses all my fears. All I do, all I am, all that I can ever be. I beg to fall in love with Thee, my Lord, with every breath of life I take. I beg to fall in love with Thee, my Lord, its every beat I to Thee forsake.
Thank you, University Choir, and to their Program Director, Mr. Joseph Riboriano. The Ateneo de Naga University Office of Student Affairs is proud to present its fourth in the webinar series. This event is made possible in cooperation with the Philippine Association of Practitioners of Student Affairs and Services, or PAPSAS, Region 5. The pandemic has changed not only our socio-economic, legal, and to an extent our political landscape, it has also significantly impacted our persons and the quality of our relationships. Health standards forced us to isolate and distance ourselves from people, from our friends, and even from our family members. Distance learning education and work from home arrangements came to mean normalized use of digital technology for transactions and communication. This also meant our reliance on social media as people continue to seek for human connections, personal affirmation, and mutual support from others. This is especially true in the case of virtual universities and classes. Students, for example, try to create the so called virtual connections, not only with their friends and peers, but even with strangers, as they seek for empowerment, sense of belonging, and sense of meaning. For all its benefits, however, the social media can also prove to be harmful. We get frequent exposure, for instance, to fake accounts, trolls, malicious, even hateful and discriminating news contents. So much inauthenticity, and most of all, the abiding danger of impersonality. This afternoon's webinar will proceed in two parts. The first part will cover the talk presentation of our speaker, and the second will focus on open forum and conversation. And so please allow us to give you some guidelines for this afternoon's event. First, if you have questions or clarification points for the speaker, kindly indicate them in our comment section. We will later address them to the speaker when we get to the open forum. Second, e-certificates will be given to those who pre-registered and accomplished the online evaluation form via a link to be posted on our FB comment section. To give us his opening remarks, may we now call on Mr. Rodolfo S.B. Virtus Jr., Director of the Office of Student Affairs, and PAPSA's Region 5 Vice President.
Good afternoon, Ateneans and all the viewers from member schools of the Philippine Association of Practitioners of Student Affairs, or PAPSAS. Welcome to the fourth installment of the new normal series of the Ateneo de Naga University Office of Student Affairs. From the onset of this pandemic and until now, the ADNO-OSA has continued to provide you, our dear students, both services and formative opportunities for your development. We have done this through the enabling digital and internet technology, and of course, with the support of collaborators in and outside the university, one of which is the PAPSAS Region 5, which has allowed us to reach out to more people and to serve Bicol. The so-called new normal compelled us to do a paradigm shift from its onset. Practically what we had planned for this school year has changed, and we just have to accept and face what continually unfolds before us. We have made major adjustments in our ways of proceeding and exercise a lot of flexibility and sensitivity. And in fact, these flexibility and sensitivity have been essential skills and a kind of disposition for us to move forward and stay relevant. This sensitivity has also guided us in choosing the themes of the webinar series that we have streamed in the last 4 months and in our future plans. If you missed to watch any of these webinars, feel free to visit our ADNO-OSA Facebook account and YouTube channel, and you will find there the materials and other information about our available programs and services. Meanwhile, may I invite you to watch this interesting and timely presentation of our resource speaker for today, Father Albert Alejo of the Society of Jesus, or Paring Bert. Many of you may have known Paring Bert as a mediator, peacemaker, in interfaith negotiations and dialogue between indigenous peoples, Muslims, and Christians in Mindanao, and initiator of a national anti-corruption movement called AHEM, among his other several social advocacies. Paring Bert is a poet, researcher, and book author. One of his most important books is Tao Po Tuloy, Isang Landas ng Pag-unawa sa Loob ng Tao, which earned him a National Book Award. In this particular book, he discussed the concept of loob, or inner self, and kapwa or fellow human beings, which are elements in Filipino indigenous psychology. A phrase in the book says, and I quote, "Ang loob ay hindi isang sulok ng dibdib, kundi isang daigdig ng makabuluhang ugnayan." This line speaks so much of how it is to be truly human among fellow human beings. However, in the context of our experience during this pandemic, human interactions have been reduced to virtual communication via social media, video conferencing, and private messaging. Online classes and work from home arrangements have become part of the new normal in observance of health standards such as social distancing, wearing a face mask, and prohibition of face to face meetings. Given all these, the concepts of loob and kapwa and pakikipagkapwa are worth examining, especially in our personal and collective journeys towards pagpapakatao. May I then invite you to listen to Paring Bird's talk and reflect on the quality of our interactions with our kapwa and our capacity to show empathy and compassion and to do justice even and especially in this time of pandemic. In welcoming you, let me borrow again Father Alejo's book title, which is a very Filipino way of relating with one another. Tao po, tuloy po kayo in this webinar. To be human, reintegration in the new normal. Thank you very much and Diyos mabalus po sa Indogabos.
Thank you, Sir Sunny. Allow me now to introduce our speaker for this event. Our speaker is a priest of the Society of Jesus, a social anthropologist, a peace advocate, an author, poet, and researcher, as well as a professor at the Loyola School of Theology, Ateneo de Manila University. He graduated with a bachelor's degree in philosophy from the University of Santo Tomas, and he later obtained both his graduate degrees in philosophy and in theology at the Loyola School of Theology, Ateneo de Manila University. He spent a few years abroad and earned his doctorate degree in social anthropology at the University of London School of Oriental and African Studies. For years, he has taught at various Jesuit schools in the Philippines, including Ateneo de Davao, Ateneo de Zamboanga, and now at the Ateneo de Manila University. Aside from his academic work, he also works with various marginalized sectors of our community. He served as director at various social centers where he's been leading and is recognized as a champion in the cause of women's welfare, dignified labor, indigenous people, human rights, as well as peace and justice advocacy and dialogue engagements with Muslim Filipinos. He is also a writer-poet who publishes notable books and poems reflecting and commenting on various social issues in the country. In recent months, especially during quarantine period, he has been actively sharing Karaniwang Karunungan, which is a series of video clips reflecting on the wisdom of ordinary human experience. Dear friends, we are very happy to have with us Father Albert Paringbert Alejo of the Society of Jesus.
Salamat sa introduksyon at maraming salamat po sa ating pagtatalakayan ngayon. Thank you very much for coming. I am Father Albert E. Alejo of the Society of Jesus. Just call me Paring Bert. Kung ite-text nyo ako, pwede naman PB. O, kumusta na, PB. So, ang tawag sa akin ay Paring Bert. At binigyan ho ako ng assignment na medyo kinabahan din ako, pero I'm just taking this as an invitation as well as a challenge, so to also clarify for myself how I would discuss this being human. Of course, this is a never-ending discussion But I'd like to divide my presentation into two. One is being human. In other words, how are we going to discuss the question of what is it to be human when we discuss it in English? Ganon, ano? Paano ba ang itsura, ano ba itsura ng pagtalakay natin pag in-English natin yung diskusyon, yung to be human or being human. Pangalawa, malaking bagay naman yung English man yan o Pilipino, maraming pagkakapareho dyan, pero gusto ko lang magdagdag na kapag ginamit naman natin yung ating wika, baka may iba pang dagdag, ibang klaseng approach ng pagkilala natin sa ating sarili bilang tao. Okay? So, nung una, ang talagang topic ay compassion in the internet, no? Cyber compassion, pero pinalawak ito into being human at doon ho ako medyo na-stretch. So, diretso na. So, that part 1 is being human and part 2 is pagpapakatao. Being human. Alam nyo, marami ng tanong yan. What does it mean to be human? When all around us, there are challenges to be half human, to be non-human, to be inhuman, to be dehumanized, to be objectified. So I'd like to scan, just simple, the internet and Google Images, YouTube. How is the question, what does it mean to be human, discussed in images? And I'd like to scan, no? So apparently, that question keeps coming back again and again in different ways as titles of studies or even movies and articles or books, discussions. And there have been many attempts to answer what is it to be human. In ancient times, you have teachings like that of Aristotle, followed by St. Thomas Aquinas and the other scholastic philosophers, saying to be human is to be different from a rock. A rock simply exists, does not have a feeling or mind, and it's not alive. Human beings are also like rocks. We occupy space, but we are more than rocks. Human beings are also like plants. We have life, but unlike the plants, we don't have the feelings or the emotions that animals have. We are also animals. That's why Aristotle says man is a rational animal. But we say we are more than animals because we don't just follow our instincts. We use our mind. As a matter of fact, more than just being rational, we are political animals. So that's one way of answering it. No? When we use our mind, then we are attuned to truth and we become honest. So sabi dito, to be human is to be honest. True? Totoo kaya yun? Yung mga magulang dyan, sabihin, oy, ang talino ng anak ko, marunong na magsinungaling. Anyway, there is this advertisement, only honest people have a human likeness. So you associate being human with the use of the mind and with a relationship to truth. Now, there's also another approach to appreciating what it is to be human, meaning we have reached a certain moment, a certain stage of development in the evolution from the monocellular paramecium to multicellular organisms, and then primates, and now we are the most advanced of all the animal species. And so what is it to be human? It is to be able to use tools. Unlike many animals, they build houses, they build nests, but they follow only the the way they have been programmed. Whereas human beings try to innovate, try to expand his capacities by the use of tools, and they live in communities, in families, and later on they develop language because of the development of the brain. So to be human is to have reached a certain level of evolution with the development of the brain and development of relationships and social structures. Mahabang usapin ito, no? Pero another way of, if you continue that, then some people predict that maybe we will expand our brain with the use of computers, and who knows where this evolution will reach. So to be human is to be capable of becoming more than human. But at the same time, to be human is to declare that we are different from aliens. May mata rin yung mga aliens, pero parang iba. Tingnan nyo nga yung mga katabi nyo dyan. Parang iba yata yung mata. Baka alien yan. Then you can say, oh, I'm not an alien. No? I'm not an alien. I have a different way of feeling and thinking about things. Now, some of you are very, avid fans of vampires and Twilight songs, etc. Now, kuminsan, nagkaka-blur naman, no? There's a blurring of boundaries between being human and being a monster, being a vampire. And although they are vampires, they're also human. But with this series of movies, you get to reflect, what is it really to be human? So I'd like to invite you, some of you, many of you most of you are students. I invite you to write papers exploring these themes. No? What is it to be human when your parents are vampires? You may say, fiction lang yan, but you never know. Huh? Now, to be human is again being challenged today, especially with the development of the science of robotics. And then you have, before you develop psychology of human beings, and then you develop machines. But then they start combining the two, that a human being is attached to computers, programming. And the machine is imbued with emotions, with movements, with gestures, with smiles. Pwede nga makipag-handshake yung robot. At because of the attached machines, you can see with your eyes, but you can have even X-ray vision. Your hands can move, but with the machine attached to you, you can do many other things. Or you can devise a machine, it's not human, but you can enter into its programming some human qualities like speech, like saying good morning, I love you. And some machines now can write poetry. Delicado. So now some machines have been given intelligence. May mga machines na ang kakalabanin mo mag-chess. Madalas talo ka. Ba't niya naiisip yung iniisip mo? Paano yun? Na-program na, no? But can you imagine later on they develop robots applying for nannies, caretakers, nurses? Mahirap, pero sa ngayon, meron na sila mga long distance operation of the eyes. May mga robots na nag-distribute ng mga gamot sa iba't ibang cubicles sa hospital. So again, we presume that we know what it is to be human, and yet so many things challenge our own perception and the presupposition of what it is to be human. Again, especially with the interaction between real human beings and machines. Before, the machines were different from human beings. Now there is a combination of the two. And this poses a challenge not just to human capabilities, but to our understanding of being human. Marami dyan, pinag-aaralan natin sa philosophy, yung understanding the self, pero tingin ko parang kulang na kulang, no? Maya-maya, siguro tatalo na rin ako, paano sa computer? Totoo ba yung tao, yung kausap mo, naka-avatar lang? Oo nga. Sasabihin, inatake ako, baka naman trolls na lang yan, mga bots, mga ano lang yan, mga machine na nakaprogram, basta meron kang ganitong pangalan o ganitong salita, babanatan ka ng mga machines. And then you feel sorry. Some people commit suicide because they think so many people dislike them. They don't realize that these are programmed non-humans, and yet they produce some negative effects on us. So yung iba sabi, I don't want to be human. In what sense? I want to be insulated from pain. I want to extend my vision so that when I open my eyes, I could see the moons in Saturn. I could see the sunspots without glare. Mga ganun, no? Kumisa naman, meron ganyang pakiramdam mo, to be human is to be very limited. Unlike machines, they can do many, many things. And that's why yung iba naman, gumagawa na ng robots para sila yung dalhin sa mga gera. To be human is not to be a monster. Siguro that's one basic thing now, one formula. Instead of just saying to be human is to be a rational animal. Siguro ang isang challenge dito, there are many ways to become a monster. Maybe our task is not to be a monster, to insist on staying with the flesh and blood, with all our weaknesses, but with all our sensitivities. And even this science fiction would assert and affirm what it is really to be human. Siguro itong si Wonder Woman, marami siyang alam, yung mga Avengers dyan, yung mga heroes ninyo. Pero at the end of the day, human pa rin. Si Spider-Man, nalulungkot pa rin, nanghihina pa rin. No? Si Wonder Woman, sasabihin niya, to be human is to love, is to offer sacrifice. Some of these Avengers are ready to die. What for? So to be human is to love even when it gets too much. I'm not ready to give up. And yet, at the heart of this mga heroes and heroines, mga monsters, robots, yung pala meron ding humanity in them. Now, in some cases, medyo weird. Pero ewan ko, bakit nagiging laganap ito? Daming gustong manood. Siguro dahil, at least on the screen, we are challenged. To what extent are we vulnerable to viruses that all of a sudden could turn us into monsters, into zombies? And then it reveals the fragility of human creation, like society, like buildings, like hospitals. As a matter of fact, we feel it now. With the virus, hindi mo nakikita pero tumatalab. We can all be zombies. And some of us look like zombies anymore, not thinking, and violent. And we are ready for violence, no? And by God, take note, the zombies are actually human beings who all of a sudden were turned into something else. The fragility of human beings, of being human. And some people are saying maybe we should struggle to be beyond human. um, the use of technology, with the use of the mind, with the use of spirituality. But there must be something more. Because in being animal, there was something more that became human. Being a rock, there was something more in the rock that it became a plant. There was something in the plant that somehow it feeds animals. There's something in the animals that became conscious and became human. Now we are at this point in our being human. Maybe there's something else, something more. And how can we cooperate with that? Now, different religions are probably the first ones, even before science challenge that, to say, hey, you are seeds. There's something more to you. This earth um, is a yeast. There's something that is being created anew. There will be new world, a new creation. There will be resurrection. So, how can that be? Mindfulness, yoga, meditation, drugs. Uh, Now, I'd like to invite you to also reflect this, what you call interbeing. And it's not just human being that we are connected with. We are connected with all kinds of things. St. Francis says, brother sun, sister moon, brother fire, sister water. This Thich Nhat Hanh is a Buddhist monk that teaches interbeing. Hindi lang ito pakikipagkapwa-tao, pakikipagkapwa nilikha, pakikipagkapwa bato, kapwa hayop, kapwa bagay. And when we breathe, we declare our connection with the rest of the world. And therefore here, to be human is to be part of this whole materiality which is imbued with spirituality. And to be human is to be the most conscious of this interconnection. The rocks and the plants and the seas and the mountains, they're interconnected. But to be human is to be that creature, that being that is conscious or potentially conscious of realizing this connection. Sinasabi ko nga na, para tayong mga isla na sa ibabaw ng tubig ay magkakaiwalay, ngunit kapag ikaw ay sumisid, kita pala ay magkaugnay. So to be, what is it to be human? Pareho lang doon sa mga hayop, sa mga bato. Pareho, konektado, pero there's something in being human. Because in being human, we are like rocks and the seas and waters and fire connected to everything else. But to be human is to have that capacity, to be mindful, to be aware, to be in touch with that connection. Kaya there is again a dignity of the human being. And I invite you to reflect on this. Maybe this is not something you were expecting in this talk, but now that you're here, I invite you to go into this. What's that again? Being zombies. We're not zombies, but we can be zombies. We are not monsters, but we can be monsters. Let's assert being human, even if we are half machines. Di ba? And we are not vampires, but there's animality in us. And we can be very different, but there's something that unites us with fellow human beings and even in human beings in the past. Okay? Given this, why is this important? Now, in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, we realize the importance of discussing what it is to be human, because there will be implications. And one big implication of this is the assertion that all humans have rights simply because they are humans. I'd like you to look at this slide, which, by the way, it took a long time for me to collect all these slides. Now, if you're human, you may have a potential for being monster. You may look like an alien, or you may look like a chimpanzee or a paramecium. Sino ba dyan yung they look like paramecium? uh, but if we are human, if you are human, then you have dignity, you have rights, you deserve not to be discriminated against, you deserve justice, and you have to grow, and in order to grow, you need freedom. If you have not realized being human, then maybe that's why you don't assert your rights. Maybe that's why you just allow people to be killed, to be trampled upon. Every human has rights. And that's why we need to stand up for human rights. To be human is to have rights, to have dignity. To be human is to deserve respect and freedom and well-being. Whether you are black or red or yellow. Nalulungkot ako kapag may mga kapwa-tao, basta ilelabel lang yan, pula yan, red tagging. Dilawan yan, walang kwenta yung mga tao na yan. Singkit yan, pandak yan, kulot ang buhok yan. Addict yan, kaya hindi na yan human. Pag addict, pwede na yan patayin, pwede na itapon sa basura. Walang kwenta yung pag-aaral ng mga philosophy of man na yan pag hindi umaabot sa ganitong paninindigan. That's why, I'd like to invite you to appreciate that when the LGBTs assert their human rights, it's because they are human. When the women struggled to really be allowed to vote, it was not just because of being human, but because they are human. Even indigenous peoples are human beings. So siguro, that's the first part of the discussion. And, just scan Google images and YouTube and you read books and you look around how many different versions of being human are all around us, then you really appreciate the mystery, the value, the gravitas, the preciousness of being human. Kung hindi ganito yung pag-aaral natin, ano lang yan, walang kwentang pipitik-pitikin mo lang ginagawa natin pag-aaral. Sasabihin tao. So I'd like to invite you to reflect on this and to really live it out and feel it that I am human being. Don't just trample upon me. And I should do the same with other people. Okay. So this discussion gives us the vocabularies and the trajectory and the images and the imagination and the contrast to really reflect on what it is to be human. Now, papunta ngayon ako sa ikalawang bahagi ng diskusyon, ng pagtalakay. Subukan naman nating talakayin yung paksa ng to be human, pero gamitin natin yung ating idioma. Yung mga Bicolano, inaanyayahan ko kayo na isama dito. Kung Bisaya ito, pwede pa ako. Pero yung Bicolano, tangang-tanga pa po ako dyan. Turuan niyo po ako. Pero talakayin natin yung title na to be human bilang pagpapakatao. Makita mo, no? Iba na yan. Hindi lang yung to be human or being. Kasi yung literally being human, ano yun eh? Pagiging tao. Pero may kasabihan tayo. Madaling maging tao, yung mga magulang natin may ginawa isang gabi, yan, naging tao tayo. No? Medyo mahirap na rin yun. Pero sabi nga, kung madaling maging tao, mas mahirap magpakatao. Yung, ano ba yung magpakatao? Yung halimbawa, sasabihin mo, magbantay ka o magluto ka. Ako yung tao na magluluto, may gagawin, ako yung gagalaw, yung pagluluto ko, yun ang galaw, at yung niluluto ko, yun ang produkto. So, yung mga bawang na pinitpit, yung sibuyas, yung kamatis, yung karne, yung isda, pag pinaghalo-halo ko yan, pinakuluan ko, tinimplahan ko, ako yung nagluluto, gumalaw ako, nagluto, at ang produkto ay may pagkain na luto. So, nagluto. Pero ano yung pagpapakatao? Ako yung gumagalaw at ang produkto ng aking galaw ay ako. Ayun. Ako na tao, anong ginagawa ko? Hindi ko niluluto yung bato na maging tao. Hindi. Ginagalaw ko ang aking sarili para maging ako. Ako na tao, gumagalaw ako para ako ay maging tao. Tao na ako, pero sa kilos ko, ginagawa ko pa rin mas taong-tao ako. Kaya nga kailangan taong-tao. Yun. Madaling maging tao, mahirap magpakatao. Inanyayan ko yung mga nag-aaral ng understanding the self, philosophy of human beings, ganyan, na pagdebatehan natin to, halukayin natin. Paano nasasabi na madaling maging tao, pero mahirap magpakatao? Yung alipinin mo, yung tao mo doon, palakihin mo yung anak. Pero ikaw mismo gagalaw para bilang tao, gagalaw ka para gawin mo ang sarili mo na mas tao, mas makatao, mas taong tao. Yan ang hamon ng pagpapakatao. Yun. Ganda. Sabi nga, it's hard to be human. Pero sabi ko nga, nauna na kami dyan. Mahirap yun, ha? Sasaktan ka. Ngayon gusto kong talakayin itong pagpapakatao sa tatlong bahagi. Unang-una, yung pagpapakatao ay kailangan may involved dyan na pagiging taong-tao. Pangalawa, bahagi pala ng pagpapakataong-tao ay yung matanggap mo na hindi lang ikaw ang tao, na meron pang ibang tao na kapwa mo na pareho. Pero ngayon, gusto ko idagdag yung realisasyon, yung pagkamulat, na oo, hindi lang ako ang tao, yung iba ay katulad kong tao. Pareho kami na marunong masaktan, pareho kami na mag-iisip, pareho kami na kailangang lumaya, pareho kami ng dangal. Pero sa takbo ng panahon ngayon, higit na nating mas nakikilala na bahagi ng pagpapakataong tao ay pakikipagkapwa-tao at bahagi ng pagturing ng ibang tao ay kapwa ko rin, ay yung pagkamulat na yung kapwa-tao ko ay kaiba pa rin. At hindi lang sila yung iba, pati ako iba. Kaya pakikipagkaibang tao. Na tunuturing ko yung kapwa ko na may sariling kaibahan. At kung akin, merong kulang sa pagpapakatao. Okay? Ano yan? Pagpapakataong tao, pakikipagkapwa-tao, at pakikipagkaibang tao. Yan. Wala pa sa libro yan. Wala pa to sa libro. Yung mabilis magsulat yan, pakisabi lang naman na napag-usapan natin ito. No? Una, pagpapakataong tao. Ano naman yung, paano natin to tinatalakay? Hoy, tao ka. Hayop kang animal ka. Ibig sabihin, ibig sabihin pala, ang tao, dapat hindi basta hayop. Sa Pilipino, sasabihin natin, ano ba naman yan? Parang aso. Kahit sino na lang dyan sa kalsada, kinakalikot. Basta nakakita ng poste, niyayakap na. Para kang hayop. Walang modo, mabangis. Pero siyempre yung mga may alaga, may mga pusa, na hayop, na mga aso, sasabihin, unfair naman yan. Unfair naman yan. Kasi matino naman yung mga hayop. Huwag mo lang silang guguluhin. Kahit nga mga ahas, huwag mo lang silang aapakan, lalayuan ka rin naman yan. Pero the point is, sa diskursong Pilipino, ang pagpapakatao ay pag-iwas sa pagpananatiling para lang hayop. Kaya lang, ang tao ay may kultura, may kabihasnan, may sibilisasyon, may paggalang sa sarili, may disiplina, may mga nararamdaman, at mayroong isip. Hindi porke nagugutom, sasakmalin yung pagkain. Di ba? Pwede naman nagugutom ako, tao rin ako, pero pwede ko hintayin yung aking mahal. Ay, gutom ako pero hintayin ko na yung mister ko kasi gusto ko sabay kami. Gutom ako pero mas gutom yung anak ko, magkakape na lang ako. Ganun, no? So, hindi porke gutom ka bilang hayop, dudunggapin mo ng lahat ng pwedeng kainin sapagkat tao ka na meron kang sariling pagtitimbang-timbang, pangingilatis. Bilang tao, hindi ka basta hayop. Okay? Tao, hindi ako kasangkapan lang. Huwag mo akong gawing kasangkapan lang. No? Hindi ako gamit. At huwag mo lang akong gagamitin. Di ba? Hindi tama yan. At hindi ako basurahan. Natapunan lang ng lahat ng problema mo, ng hinaing mo, lahat na lang sa akin mo tinatapon. At lalong-lalo na, hindi ako basurahan at hindi rin ako basura. At dito, iba yung pagtalakay, no? Sa ngayon, parang basura tinatapon yung tao eh. Yung iba naman sinasalaksak lang sa basurahan. Yung mga bilangguan ay ginawang basurahan, tinatabakan lang ng mga tao. Sa Pilipino po, hindi ganyan. Sabi nga, hindi ako gamit. Pag mo lang gamitin. Hindi ako kasangkapan lang na pwedeng basagin. Inipunan mo lang ako ng inipunan ng sinsilyo tapos babasagin mo. Ang mahalaga lang sa iyo yung sinsilyo, hindi na yung alkansya. Ganon. Ginamit mo lang pala ako eh. Para magselos yung mahal mo. Ginamit mo lang ako para sa libog mo. Hindi ako basurahan, natapunan ng lahat ng mga sama ng loob mo. Ganyan. At lalong-lalo na, ang tao ay hindi basura. Sinasabi ni Pope Francis na throwaway culture. Na dahil tapon tayo ng tapon, sinasabi natin hindi magagamit, yung mga tao na yan, wala nang silbi yan, maganon. Pag hindi tayo nagagalit sa ganyan, baka hindi na rin tayo tao. Yun. But pinagbabayaan lang natin yan, nag-i-introduce sila ng mga category na subhuman, therefore they have no human rights. They are not human, therefore they have no human rights. Pagka tatanga-tanga tayo, tatamad-tamad at takot na manindigan sa ganyan, ay napapawasan yung ating pagkatao. Yung iba naman, sila mismo nagsasabi, wala akong magawa, tao lang ako. Huwag mong lalangin. Tao ka, tao ko. Huwag mong lalangin. Kaya nga mayroong edukasyon ng pagpapakatao, pero gusto kong tingnan yung curriculum kung nandiyan ba yung assertion ng pagpapakatao na hindi basura, hindi basurahan, hindi kasangkapan. Ngayon, bahagi pala ng pagkilala sa tao ay pagkamulat na hindi lang ako ang tao, siya din ay tao. Ngayon, checking ko, Kung ikaw yung teacher, yung mga estudyante mo, kapwa-tao mo rin ba yan? Estudyante ko lang yan. Pero kapwa-tao pa rin yan. Yung anak mong pasaway, tao ba yan? Oo. Tao ka ba? Oo. Ano siya? Anak ko. Kapwa mo ba yung anak mo? Hindi, anak ko siya. Hindi, kapwa-tao mo pa rin, pati yung anak mo. Kapwa-tao mo pa rin, pati yung lola mong may sakit. Kapwa-tao pa rin yung bilanggo. Kapwa-tao yung pulis. Kapwa-tao yung sundalo. Ang hirap naman yan. Pero may panawagan eh. Yung mga nandiyan sa kalsada na humingi ng tulong, nananawagan sila sa ating pagiging kapwa-tao. Sapagkat sila, hindi mo pwedeng sabihin, ang laki ng tiyan niya, mga ano yan, ba't di sila magtrabaho? Mga driver yan, na bawal kang magmaneho ngayon. Bawal pumasada. Kaya nga may panawagan ng pakikipagkapwa-tao na hindi lang ako nagpapakatao, bahagi ng aking pagpapakatao ay ang pagkilala, paggalang, pagtatanggol sa aking kapwa-tao. Itong pakikipagkapwa-tao ay may panlipunang dimensyon. Kaya nga, yung pakikipagkapwa-tao sa Pilipino ay nagiging bayanihan. Hindi yung pagbubuhat ng sariling bangko, kundi pakikibuhat, pakikipasan ng pagbabago ng paglilipat bahay. Kaya nga karaniwang larawan ng pagkikipagkapwa-tao ay yung pagdadamayan, pagbabayanihan, sama-samang pagtutulungan patungo sa pagbabago, kailangan ng lakas ng katawan, kailangan nag-uusap, nagpapahinga, may kasiyahan sa paglilingkod. Yan yung pakikipagkapwa. May namumuno, marunong ng kaayusan, at hindi nagsosolo-solo lang, at may pagdiriwang sa pinagsama-samang pag-ani. Kaya ang ganda-ganda ng bayanihan. At makikita rin ito sa iba't ibang uri ng pakikipagkapwa at pagbabayanihan. Mayroong kailangang i-repair sa eskwelahan, tulong-tulong. Mayroong bagyo o baha, o may volunteer, pakikipagkapwa yan. May biktima ng gera o ng sakuna, ano ba naman yung tutulong ka magluto? Marunong kang magturo. Dami mga bata, sabik na sabik, matuto. Tao din yan, kapwa-tao na may isip na gusto makapagbasa. Tingnan mo yung bata dyan, ang gantingin, gustong matuto bilang tao. Ngayon, kailangan natin magtulong-tulungan. Pagpapakatao din ang pakikipagtulungan. Pagdadamayan, paggamit ng kamay, at paghanap ng mga resources, at tibay ng loob sa harap ng sakuna, at handang maglakbay. Sorry, ba't umulit ito? Ngayon, yung pagkumisan, itong pakikipagkapwa ay pagbabayanihan tungo sa pagbabago ng lipunan, hindi lang pagbabago ng address. At kuminsan, yan ay maipapakita sa sama-samang pagkilos. Okay? Ngayon, ang huling bahagi nito ay itong pakikipag-ibang tao. Mapapansin nyo, sa kapwa, pinapareho natin yung iba, pero makikita natin na sa mundo ngayon, yung kinakapwa ko ay iba rin. At hindi lang yon, pati pala ako ay iba. Hindi lang yung sila ang iba, kaya malaking hamon dito ay yung pagkilala sa pagkakapareho namin ng iba't ibang reliyon, pero sa pagkakaiba-iba rin kahit na meron kaming pagkakapareho. Kaya ang pagkakaisa ay hindi lang dahil sa pare-pareho tayo, kundi may pagkakaisa rin na nakabatay sa pagiging iba-iba tayo. Kaya tayo nagkakaisa ay dahil may pagkakaiba tayo. Okay? May winchik, may katutubo, at sa karanasan ko po ay napapayaman ang aking pagkatao, pagpapakikipagkapwa, sa pakikisalamuha ko sa mga ibang tao. Pakikilakad sa kanila, pakikiupo, at pakikibangon sa panahon ng giyera. So tatapusin ko po itong presentation ko. Being human, pagpapakatao, nakita natin na maraming ibang paraan ng pagtatalakay dito, pero meron tayong idinagdag na sa pagpapakatao pala, kailangang tanggapin natin at ipagdiwang ang pagiging taong-tao. May kahinaan, may karunungan, may pagkabukasan sa inaharap. At hindi lang pala ako ang tao na may dangal, ako rin, yung iba rin pala ay kapwa-tao na dapat ko ring igalang. At kahit na sa gitna ng pagtanggap ko sa kanila bilang kapareho ko, ginagalang ko rin sila bilang kaiba kaysa akin. Hindi ko sila dapat piliting maging ako. Hindi ko sila dapat sakalin para maging hindi sila. Sa kanilang kaibahan ay nakikita ko na mahalaga sila at hindi lang pala sila ang iba, kundi pati ako ay ibang tao. Subukan mong mapunta sa ibang bansa, ikaw pala yung ibang tao at gusto mong i-assert na iba kami, ganito yung pagkain namin, ganito yung masarap sa amin, ganito yung maganda sa amin. So siguro, inaanyayahan ko kayo pag nilay-nilay natin ito, tignan natin ang paksang ito ng being human, Englishin natin at dami-dami nating matututunan, pero subukan din natin gamitin ang ating wika, halukayin natin ng kabangyaman ng ating kultura at matutuklasan natin, meron din tayong maidadagdag na pagpapayaman, pagpapalalim at pagpapalawak, pagpapabigay ng kulay at buhay sa hiwaga at biyaya ng pagiging tao at pagpapakatao. Siguro hinto muna ako dito. Maraming salamat sa inyo.
Thank you, Paring Bert. I hope that your presentation would help us reflect on what it means for us to be human, especially in this time of pandemic. Please stay with us as we proceed to the second part, our open forum. But before we proceed, we'd like to acknowledge first the presence of national and regional officers of PAPSAS. Thank you very much, PAPSAS, and most especially to our regional president, Mr. Randy Iniego. We also would like to thank and acknowledge our participants from the Ateneo de Naga University, especially our students from the College Ignition and Formation Program, or CAFP, and the National Service Training Program, NSTP. Students joining us from other colleges and universities across the region, as well as student affairs practitioners. Thank you very much for joining us. We now invite everyone to share their questions or reactions to the speaker's talk. Since our theme is very timely and relevant, we encourage everyone to share their thoughts. We can share our questions, our comments, reflections, or insights. Kindly post them in the comment section of our ADNU OSA Facebook. We shall now take questions and reactions from participants. I guess we are now live in our FB live streaming for the second part of our program, which is the open forum and conversation. If you have questions or reactions, reflections on Father Alejo's presentation, especially those joining us from Facebook, you may share via the comment section below. Okay, so just please state or briefly introduce yourself and then your school organization. And then if you could state your question or insights as briefly and clearly as possible, we would appreciate that. Thank you very much. So we now proceed to the first reactor. We have with us Dr. Evelyn A. Songko from the University of Santo Tomas. Dr. Songko is the former president of PAPSAS. Good afternoon, ma'am, and thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Father. Good
Hello,
afternoon
Evelyn.
yeah, nakakatuwa yan. And good afternoon, of course, to Dr. Rodolfo Virtus, the head of OSA, and to all of you there at Ateneo de Naga. Thank you so much for inviting me. Siyempre, hindi ako makahindi kasi it's Father Alejo. And idol ko yun si Father Alejo.
Sobra na.
And I think it is my pride that I was invited by you. The topic really is very interesting and it's very deep and very relevant because right now when you speak of human beings, of reintegrating the human beings, why reintegrating the humans to be human, to be reintegrated? Parang nag-isip ako, nawala ba kami sa integration of all of the things? But you see, Father Alejo gave us, I have many take-homes from what I heard from Father. And of course, first is the essence of being a human being. He talked about that, the essence of being a human. The second part, of course, is, you know, you have the essence of a human being, but the human being has a meaning. The essence of being a human being has a meaning when there is relationship that is directed to the other people. That's why in his second part of his presentation, he was talking about pagpapakataong tao, pakikipagkapwa-tao, pakikipagkaibang tao. And to me, that is beautiful. You know, allow me to make use of the Filipino word as Father did. Because, you know, it gives me comfort to be talking about human beings in the context of our own language. Siyempre, meron ding mga ibang hindi ko masabi sa ating Filipino language. Now, the essence of the human being, it is really, he identified the very essence of the human being is our dignity and our freedom. Pag yan nawala na, hindi ka human being. Your dignity and your freedom. Now, our dignity, our freedom, the essence of our human being is being challenged. Why is it being challenged now? I agree with him because right now, because of the advancement of technology, you have the artificial intelligence, you have robots. It seems like the robots are humans. Sabi mo, parang tao. And then may mga tao naman, parang robot. And you say, wow, itong taong to, parang robot. There must be some kind of confusion somewhere. But we should not lose track of the fact that any human being has the ability to make good decisions because of the freedom that is inherent in that human being. And whatever challenge is confronting the essence of the human being now, I like what Father Alejo said, that the human being, us, we are able to integrate the materiality and the spirituality of it. If we are unable to do that, then I guess we are confused about our nature. It is in the integration, it is in bringing together, it is in the wholeness of the materiality and the spirituality of things that we are able to realize the interconnectedness of everything. Hindi naman pwedeng material lang. Hindi naman pwedeng spiritual lang. Hindi natin mauunawaan ang ating pagkatao kung hindi natin mabubuo sa isang spectrum ang materiality and spirituality. Part 2, Father. You see, the human being exists in an environment. The human being exists and finds meaning in the relationship with other people. Totoo yan, magpapakataong tao siya. Ngunit ang kanyang pagkataong tao ay walang malalim na kahulugan kung ito ay hindi bibigyan ng kahulugan ng tao, ng ibang tao at ang kanyang mga kapaligiran. That is very, very important to us. At ang pakikipagkapwa-tao. Kasi kung hindi ka makikipagkapwa-tao, hindi mo rin naman nabigyan ng pagpapakatotoo ang pagkatao ng kapwa mo. Kung hindi ka nakikipagkapwa-tao, hindi mo siya mabibigyan ng essence. Hindi rin niya madidefine ang pagkatao niya at ang pakikipagkaibang tao. Sa pakikipagkaibang tao, there is something here that is really required of us, and that is accepting other people, even though how different they are. Diyan nagsisimula ang ating kapayapaan, diyan nagsisimula ang ating pag-unawa sa kapwa, kapag tayo ay bukas, kapag tayo ay may pagtanggap, kapag tayo ay mayroong pagmamahal. You see, if we do, as Father Alejo said, we are humans because we can feel. We are humans because we can be compassionate. We are humans because we can have consideration directed to other humans. If it is when we realize our humanhood, when we realize our need to find meaning in our essence by relating with other people, then we become advocates. We become advocates of making people feel they are human, making others feel their dignity, making others feel their freedom. Ngayon, pag tinignan natin itong ating pinag-uusapan sa konteksto ng ating kalagayan sa ngayon, marami tayong mga tanong. Marami tayong mga tanong na maaaring mahirap na sagutin at meron tayong limited time. Pero ganun pa man, gusto ko rin lagyan ng punto yon. Ang atin bang mga leaders, kahit sinong leader yan, kay private leader, kay public leader, kay government leaders, ang isa bang leader o ang mga leader natin ay binibigyan ng kahulugan ang pagiging tao ng kanyang mga kasamahan at ng mga tao sa kanyang ibaba. Ang mga tao, ang mga citizens, ang mga kasama natin, nagpapangkat-pangkat ba? Nagkakaroon ba ng advocacy upang nang sa ganon, our freedom as human beings will be preserved? Of course, it is not just in terms of fighting loudly or fighting in a noisy voice, but it is really in believing strongly inside us that we have to stand for the dignity of the human person, so that in whatever challenge we are in whatever situation we are in at present, we can bring back our own dignity as human persons. Yung hindi tayo sinisigaw-sigawan para pipila ka, para hihingi ka ng ilang libo, hihingi ka o tatanggap ka ng donasyon o tatanggap ka ng tulong. Personally, ako, ayokong pinag-uusapan sa isang pangkat at sinasabi, may mga programang ganyan na sinasabi, ito si Juan de la Cruz ay isang mahirap, ang kanyang kwento ng buhay, namatay ang kanyang magulang, etc., etc., at siya ay kailangan ng tulong. Hindi natin kailangan i-display ang mga tao na nangangailangan ng tulong. Sapagkat pag dinisplay natin yan, nawawala ang kanilang dignidad. Pag pinag-usapan natin yan sa media, nawawala ang kanilang dignidad. Ang ating pagtulong sa kanila, isa yan sa mga bagay na nais kong maipaalam sa mga kasamahan natin, na mga citizens din, na mga advocates din, na ang mga mahihirap ay hindi for display. Hindi sila pinag-uusapan sa publiko. Hindi sila, ang kanilang sitwasyon ay kailangan, we have to address that. We have to address it in the most respectful manner, that we maintain their dignity. In that way, then they are reintegrated into the realm of the human beings, happily becoming good citizens of the country. Yun lang po. Salamat po sa pakikinig.
Thank you po, Dr.
Salamat
Songko.
po.
Thank you for reiterating us this afternoon the importance of relationality, in our journey to become, to becoming persons that we are. Uh, I remember Shakespeare, no? In one of his famous plays, no, he wrote, "To be or not to be, that's the question." So it's a decision. So it's very timely that and it's very relevant actually. Maganda yung contextualization na ginawa ni Dr. Evelyn sa political and social life natin ngayon, because perhaps there is a need for us to recover, no, to retrieve that the humanity that we seem to be losing.
Mm.
So kailangan talaga itong talk ni Father Bert.
Mm. Tsaka also the ways by which we help, the ways by which we call people, to call the attention of people to the people that we would like to become human. Mas maganda pa yung aso. Di ba? My lips are sealed.
So, ma'am, of siguro how people, prioritize things. Maybe a question really of what people value, no? And siguro a question for
True.
us educators,
True.
how to impact our students in in their values, no? In their beliefs, so that we could somehow influence them in the way they would live their lives.
Mm.
So thank you very much, Dr. Evelyn, for being with us.
Thank you.
Our next reactor is a faculty of Ateneo de Naga University from the Theology Department. We have with us Mr. Rosendo Badilla. Sir Ringo, thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me too. So okay po ba ang volume ko? Can I be heard?
Yes po, loud and clear.
Very good. Thank you.
Very good.
Marami pong salamat, paring Bert, and welcome back sa Ateneo de Naga. As always, you have once more shown us a new perspective to an old question. Very interesting. Parang kumakain tayo ng prutas na lagi na nating kinakain. Pero ngayon, may pinakita kayong bagong pamamaraan ng pagbalat at paghimay dito. So ito rin po ang nakuha ko. Sa unang bahagi, we were reminded of who we are. This created being who is called to become, to be better. Sabi nga ni Jesus, to be perfect as our Heavenly Father is perfect. And every time we slide into mediocrity, to apathy, when we shift to autopilot and just exist, when we lose the spirit and simply be technical about things, and maybe worse, even when we allow the beast in us, to rule our lives. When those things happen, we refuse our calling. Yun ang naalala ko sa sinishare mo kanina. That the invitation to live the way we were meant to, that is to be aware, to care, to think of ways of how to make a little heaven out of this broken world of ours. Yun. Iniiwanan natin, kinakalimutan natin yung the person we are called to be. Doon naman sa second half, ang title ko sa kanya, ano na? Ano na? After understanding what it is to be human, what do we do about it? And things became even more interesting. Sabi nyo nga, untread territory pa ito. Ngayon ko lang nakita yung tatlo na yun na pinagsabay-sabay. Ang pagpapakataong tao, pakikipagkapwa-tao, pakikipagkaibang tao. Pagpapakataong tao, to be authentic. That's how I see it. To celebrate our humanity by working toward our full potential. Kasama na yung, siyempre, kailangan yung self-awareness. Hindi pwede kalimutan yung spirituality, being embodied spirits, di ba? It's basically to cooperate in God's continuing creating in us. Pakikipagkapwa-tao naman, as shared, ang take ko doon, is recognizing that we are all the same, equals, just as our Creator is. God the Father is no greater God than Jesus the Son, or the Holy Spirit is not a lesser God. So yun, recognizing that we share the same dignity and therefore we should afford each other and each one the same respect we give everyone else. And beautiful. Si Dr. kanina already elaborated on this. So but for me, the third is the most challenging. And I tend to believe that this is the very reason why we have invited Father Albert to speak to us today. This is where we are embroiled right now. We are so divided. So today, Paring Bert reminds us, pakikipagkaibang tao. We have to learn to work around our differences in opinions, in religion, in politics, and so on. We have to see beyond our colors and recognize the human person in each. We are different, yes, unique, and therefore complementary. Complementary. Each one filling in where others fall short. Diba? Then by doing so, we win over ourselves. We conquer our pride and become more open to growing and becoming. So yon. Salamat po ulit, Father. Dami ko natutunan. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sir Ringo. If anything na siguro gusto kong i-appreciate from your theological perspective, that would be your point, your emphasis on the purpose of humanity, connecting it, siguro stating it in the context of our Christian call, the vocation to become image and likeness of God. So it's a standing call for us to be reflectors of the Trinity. If God is a relationship, then our deepest essence is also to be a relationship. If God is love, then we are also love. Sabi nga ni William Blake. So, isang poet. No? But yes, thank you very much, Sir Ringo, for
thank you
and for your insights, for your reactions. Our next set of sharers, reactors, are students from our own university and from other schools as well. No? We have with us Miss Chloe Lunar, the Assistant Core Group Head of our peer coaches, student, and kaabay volunteers of Ateneo de Naga University. Chloe, are you still with us?
Yes po. Teka lang.
Sure.
Ayan. Okay na po. Naririnig niyo po ba ako?
Yes po.
Oh, nakikita pa.
Okay, so, good afternoon po sa inyong lahat. Ayan. Good afternoon, Sir Alejo, Dr. Sompo, Sir Clyde, and to Team OSA, to my fellow reactors. Good afternoon po. Napakaganda po ng talk ngayon ni Sir Alejo. It re-invites us to reflect on how, on what it means, rather, to be human. So, based on this talk, tatlo po ang natutunan ko. Una, na ako ay tao, na ako ay may karapatan, na ako ay nag-enjoy ng lahat ng mga bagay na nandito sa earth, sa surface of the earth. Pero along with this, hindi lang ako ang tao dito sa mundong ito. 'Di ba? Meron din ibang tao, yung sinasabi nating kapwa-tao. Na sila din ay may ine-enjoy rin ng mga sariling karapatan. Sila din ay may sariling isip, sariling damdamin. And dahil nga sila ay tao din, dapat din natin silang ituring na tao, na may karapatan, na may damdamin. And as I was reflecting po on the contents of this talk, parang ang naisip ko po is gusto ko po siyang ilagay sa konteksto ng kung anong nangyayari ngayon. Kasi sometimes it's hard for us to remember that all of us are human. Kasi especially nowadays na ang interactions natin is limited na lang sa virtual space. So more on sa application na ho siya ng pagiging human. Sometimes we forget that other people, that the person that we're talking to, or that someone that we're talking to sa screen or through chat lamang or through other means of virtual communication nakakalimutan natin na sila ay tao rin, na the way that we interact with them also affects, or sabihin natin, may effect din to, or may impact din to sa kanila. So, yun po, napag-isip-isipan ko din na, minsan nakakalimutan nating isipin na, ayun nga, na they are also human. And, ayun, this talk, he invites us to reflect on it din. Kasi, sometimes we say things na are below the belt, especially in the issues that we see, especially in cases of cyberbullying, wherein we say offensive things to other people in social media, in other virtual spaces. And then nowadays, we have this so-called cancel culture, wherein, especially sa mga social media personalities, mga sikat na social media personalities, just by making one mistake and by broadcasting this mistake over the internet, some people see that mistake, or actually plenty of people see that mistake. And since these people are quick to point out that you're quick to point out that mistake, sometimes they also give comments that that shame this person, that is below the belt na din. It's kind of like cyberbullying, pero it's parang since it's over the internet, parang yung identity ng taong nambubully, it's hidden in this big mob of people trying to attack this social media personality, forgetting na this social media personality is also human. Diba? So, ayun. Again, I think this is also very relevant for us ngayon to reflect on, especially since, ayun na nga, medyo matagal-tagal pa po yata tong pag-interact natin on a virtual space, no? And maybe it's time to reconnect with other people, to reconnect on what it means to regard these other people as human beings din, as fellow human beings, as kapwa-tao. So, yun lang po for this afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll say something more about that.
Thank you, Chloe, for your reflection, especially for highlighting the importance of remembering our human rights and our capacity for empathy. Siguro yung tanong doon na siguro I'd like to underline would be, so how do we, I think you seem to be talking about itong concern on how to keep our virtual encounters as personal, as human as possible, diba? Because we run the risk of losing our sense of humanity in us and in the other person with whom we're speaking, we're interacting. So how do we humanize the system? How do we humanize the structure, diba? Because that's the danger, that's a temptation, diba? So how do we avoid treating the other person as a faceless, voiceless, diba, individual, impersonality? Yun siguro yung tendency that you're trying to get at, no? In this world that is easily kumbaga carried away by hatred, by violence, ano bang mga negative na siguro biases, prejudices, and we see this happening all around us. So thank you, Chloe. It's good coming from a student, recognizing the problem. So that's something significant. Thank you. We will hear from other students because I think we also have other student participants who would like to give their comments. And so let me proceed to the next sharer. Uh, we have with us our friend from Universidad de Santa Isabel, Miss Angelique Joyce Hernandez. Thank you, Angelique, for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. So, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Father Albert, and
Hello.
to um, all who are watching in the Facebook Live of Adno Osa. So, let me take this opportunity to thank Ateneo de Naga University and also Sir Ran DP Inigo for inviting me to be one of the student reactors in today's webinar. So, first and foremost po, I would like to commend Father Albert Alejo for your talk. It was very inspiring and full of wisdom. Thank you po, Father. So, allow me to share with you my little reflection on the talk we have earlier. So, today's webinar speaks about being a human and integrating it with the current happenings in our society. It is really good that we are being reminded of the significance of knowing our nature as a human person. In this world full of injustices, hatred, crimes, and immoralities, it is important to go back to the nature of man and assess the connection of freedom as God's gift to man to the present situation we have in our society. We are also endowed with the reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood and sisterhood. Freedom and liberty are basic human rights. So these rights should be honored and respected. We are all dignified persons deserving of respect and love. We also have an inherent immeasurable worth and dignity. As persons, we possess freedom and responsibility, which is rooted in our ability to choose, to think, and govern ourselves as human beings. Being in God's likeness, we are called to reflect God's qualities of goodness, love, and mercy for human beings. We should always remember that we, human persons, matter. We are special because we have the capacity to love, to express our own feelings and thoughts, and to offer sacrifices. How special are we for being the greatest creation of God? We have the intellect and will. Thus, as humans, we should really act as human. We don't just act as humans for ourselves, but also for other people. We are all interconnected, as what Father Albert has said. We also have our responsibility to other people. What matters most is that we also recognize other people as human beings with dignity and rights. We respect them, we show our love for them, and we treat them with justice. Also, I think this is a time for us to be mindful of our responsibilities as humans, most especially we are in the world where technology prevails. Learn how to act as human in the social media. Let us be responsible for what we post, what we share, and what we receive on the internet. So to end this, I want to quote John Farrar saying, "To be human is to be at the center of our own universe, to experience life in all its colors and all its potential. This is what we want to celebrate with being human, the awe of being alive and the thrill of discovering what it means to be us, the greatest wonder in the world." So that would be all po. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you. How do I call you? Angelique or Joyce?
Angelic po, Father.
Angelique.
Yes po.
Thank you, Angelique. Father Albert, would you like to respond to any of them? Past few before we proceed siguro to the remaining sharers.
Sige. Let me share with you, pwede ba mag-share?
Sure po, Father. Sure po.
um, So siguro yung the ordinary discussion on being human, mukhang familiar na tayo doon. We have the essence, freedom, dignity. Gusto ko lang harapin kaagad yung application sa cyber ethics, no, cyber compassion. When we are being challenged on how to be human in the face of the animal kingdom, the plants kingdom, but nowadays with the machines, no. Pero once we affirm this, the dignity of being human in the midst of machines and virtual technology, how do we live up to this demand and responsibility? Dito pumapasok yung tinatawag nilang cyber ethics, no? To be human demands living a moral life even in apparently less than human platform for interaction. Ang ganda sana, akbay ka, magigitian tayo, magsikuhan tayo, kain tayo. Parang nawawala yun. Kaya nga maganda yung sinasabi ng mga estudyante na sa ganitong sitwasyon, halimbawa, kaharap ko kayo, lahat tayo nakaharap eh. Parang maganda nga yung gumagalaw kayo. Kaya nalulungkot ako pagka pinifix lang. Maganda nga yung gumagalaw. Sasabihin, i-jingle muna ako. At least nakakakita ako ng side view mo. Di ba? Umiinom ka o nagkakamot ng ulo. At least na makikita mo yung mga galaw ng pagkatao. Otherwise, lahat tayo nakaganyan. Lahat tayo ID picture o passport size. Ngayon, may mga ethics nga yan at magandang sinasabi nga na kailangan natin sikapin na magpakatao, na totoong tao, nagagalit, pero taong-tao din na, kapwa-tao din na nag-iisip, baka naman makasakit ako doon. Dahil hindi ko naman siya kaibigan. O, sino ako para husgahan siya? Sana ma-rape ka dyan. Mga ganyan, ano? Sino ako para magsalita ng ganyan? O kaya, hindi ko pa nati-check kung tama ba yung sinabi laban doon sa isang artista, isi-share ko na agad. Kung may 5,000 friends ako, o di nakashare na kaagad yun, walang kalaban-laban yung kabila, ano? Samantalang kung halimbawa, ka-eskwela mo yan, kaharap mo, hindi mo naman ganyan gagawin yun. Hindi naman ganyan eh. Oo. Nagkaroon tayo ng ibang lakas at kapangyarihan para gumawa na mabuti, pero kung minsan nagagawa natin ng masama. Kasi ang bilis-bilis, isang tuldok mo lang, share na. Isang click mo lang, laganap na, no? So, kailangan talaga na pag-aralan din natin sa mga, siguro, sa philosophy of being human, etc., sa ethics, kailangan ipasok na natin to mga cyber ethics na ganito. Be polite, avoid posting things which may embarrass you, or your near and dear ones. Don't use all caps. So itong mga punctuation, use of font size, font style, capital letters, this has a lot of things in relation to how you present yourself as human. Hindi ito basta basta letra-letra lang. Hindi ganun eh. So importante yun. Yung iba magki-create ng Facebook, ibang mukha ang ginagamit. O mukha ng aso niya, o ng halaman niya, o ng biyanan niya. O kaya mga pangalan na nirambo lang ng mga letra, mga ganon. Hindi mo tuloy mapakitunguhan bilang tao kasi sa pangalan pa lang, hindi na tunog tao. So, may panawagan na magpakatao ka at ituring mo rin kapwa-tao yun. Oo. Ngayon, ang problema, kapag hindi ko alam kung bot ba yan, troll ba yan, hindi ko rin alam ngayon kung paano ko siya ituturing. At maya-maya, nagiging monster na rin ako. Gano'n, no? So, meron tinatawag nga ditong cancel culture. Binanggit kanina ni Chloe. Nihanda ko rin to, no? Yung cancel culture na may mga taong, dinidelete natin.
Yung mga tao tayong binubura. Sa internet kasi parang dali magbura eh. Eh kung ang karap mo yung tao, hindi mo naman siya mabubura eh. Pwede mo suntukin o kurutin o ano. Pero hindi mo siya madidelete. Di ba? Merong cancel culture na, alam mo yung ibig sabihin ng cancel culture? Cancel culture refers to the popular practice of withdrawing support, initially from public figures and companies after they have done said something objectionable. Pero cancel culture is generally discussed as being performed on social media in the form of group shaming and deleting nga eh. So siguro, kung minsan may litrato dyan, ibang ilalagay mong caption. Yung captioning is very, very dangerous. Pero sa Facebook, kung meron kang isi-share, i-upload na litrato, nire-request ka doon, put some caption, write something. Write something. Doon ngayon nakakatokso na maglagay ka ng kahit na ano, tapos share ka agad. Alam nyo, kapag nakakakuha ako ng ng parang magandang i-share, pero posibleng sensitive, ang ginagawa ko, share only to me muna. Tapos babalikan ko, at least I'm buying time to make a decision whether to really share it now that I have more time to reflect. In that sense, I'm practicing my pagiging tao at kapwa-tao at yun nga, pakikipag-ibang tao na nakita ko, galit ako dun sa politician na yun. Gusto kong i-share to. Pero madalas, sasabihin ko, share ko muna only to me. Ang maganda lang sa Facebook, meron silang ganong option. Pero hindi na i-explore yung mga possibilities of cyber compassion in that kind of realm. Ang nangyari, share ka agad. Kaya ako minsan, nagkakaloko-loko kasi hindi mo na mabawi. Itong, the evil side of this is red tagging. If this cancel culture is done by authorities who have power, ito ang kaibahan nito. Yung iba, individual lang, nagka-cancel culture, pero ano lang yan mga mini culture, no? Pero marami rin yan. Ang problema, kapag yung people with power engage in cancel culture, canceling individuals, canceling religions, canceling groups, canceling organizations, kung sila pa ang pinanggagalingan ng mga kasinungalingan, ang tawag ko nga dyan, salot yan. At delikado yan. May mga webinars tungkol dyan. At ang Facebook, active ngayon sa pagkukonsulta. Ako tanong ako ng manager ng Facebook kasi meron silang mga iniisip na policy. Sinasabi nila, what do you think of this proposed policy internal to us but will have repercussions on the users of Facebook? Sabi ko, maganda yan. Pero tignan nyo rin ganito. So, imbis na yung morality ng Facebook ay good, bad, evil, ganyan. Hindi. Meron silang inintroduce na term, inauthentic behavior. Lalong-lalo na yung collective inauthentic. Kanina, binanggit nga ni Ringo, no? Sir Ringo, yung authenticity. So, apparently, authenticity, I have some qualms about that word, pero authenticity could be another word for introducing ethics na hindi sinasabi kung masama o mabuti yung politically correct mo yung sinabi mo, pero bakit ayaw mong magpakilala? O bakit pinaparami mo yung sarili mo? Isa ka lang naman. But ang dami-dami mong accounts, tapos pagtutulong-tuloy mo yun, itong tinira mo ngayon, alam mo, may sinabi ako, kayo, dalawa kayo, may 30 kayong Facebook account. Tinira nyo akong sabay-sabay. Akala ko buong mundo laban na sa akin. Magsusuicide ngayon ako, magdi-depression ngayon ako. Kasi nabubuli ako, akala ko pinagtutulungan ako ng mundo. Samantala ngayon, ang sukatan pa ng kabutihan at kagandahan, dami ng share. Pag may sinabi ako, tapos konti lang nag-share, parang walang kwenta yung sinabi ko. Buti na lang, kung may training tayo sa poetry, Shakespeare, alam natin na pwedeng maganda yung metaphor pero walang masyadong nakikinig. Pero may training ka ng philosophy, sanay ka na hindi ka masyadong naintindihan. Pero hindi mo ipagpapalit yan sa ordinaryong mura. Meron ako sinasabi na, pag nagmumura siya, anong gagawin mo? Mumurahin mo rin siya. Patas na kayo. Hindi. Pag nagmumura siya, at nagmura ka na rin, sa totoo lang, mas magaling siya magmura. Nanggagaya ka lang, di talo ka. Pero ang punto ko lang, pag nagmumura siya, lalo na sa Facebook, sa internet, at nagmura ka na rin, alam mo ang resulta? Pareho kayong mumurahin. Okay, kaya nga siguro, merong technology, media psychology review, meron tinatawag na cyber kindness, spreading kindness in cyberspace. Tapos, pwedeng gawin natin ito sa mga klase. Magkaroon tayo ng parang survey. Halimbawa, cyber kindness activities. I try to be accepting of people's differences online, even if I disagree. Ayan, no? I like to make other people happy online. I add positive comments on social media. Yan, mga cyber kindness activities. Ito naman, forms of internet activism, created or digital petitions, clicked to donate. Ayan. So, explore din natin ito to give more options, no? Ito, motivations for cyber kindness to make the world a better place. Alam nyo, ang maganda dito sa mga ganito, hindi lang ito for scoring, pero we expand our vocabularies. Yung ginawa ko po na presentation doon sa part 1, I explored the available vocabularies in discussing being human. Sa scholastic philosophy na natutunan ko nung araw, pag to assert being human, kukumpara ka lang sa rocks, plants, at saka animals. Pero ngayon, marami ng challenges and platforms to assert humanity in front of disaster, tsunami. What is it to be human in front of a volcanic eruption? What is it to be human in front of a cyborg, of a robot who can carry much more than you can? Who are you as a human being compared to a vampire who also falls in love? So, yun, with literature and movie, there is some more platforms for challenging and enriching being human. Ngayon, dinagdag ko naman yung 3 vocabulary, taong-tao, kapwa-tao, at kaibang tao. Ito na lang huli kong tapaksain, yung kaibang tao. Kasi, halimbawa, nung nasa Zamboanga Seeds ako, 2013, sa gitna ng giyera, so some 10,000 houses burned, dami-daming, almost 200,000 homeless. So pinapakain niya ng mga iba't ibang grupo, karamihan mga Christians, pero yung mga homeless ay mga tausog at saka badyaw. So ang mga Christian, talagang bilang pakikipagkapwa-tao, pagiging Kristiyano, nagluto sila, fried chicken, ganyan, dinodonate ngayon doon sa mga badyaw. Bilang pakikipagkapwa-tao. Ang ganda. Kahit Muslim sila, hindi problema yun. Basta papakainin pa rin natin. Pakikipagkapwa-tao. Maya-maya nagalit yung mga badyaw. Sabi, bakit daw, fried chicken na naman? Kumakati yung balat namin dyan. Bakit? Basta kumakatin. Sanay sila sa isda. Lalo na sabi ng mga Christian na nakipagkapwa-tao, walang hiya sila. Tinutulungan na nga natin sila, pinapakain, nagluluto pa tayo, volunteer lang tayo dito, magagalit pa sila. Ayun, alam mo, umabot sila sa pakikipagkapwa-tao, pero hindi umabot sa pakikipag-ibang tao. Pakikipag-ibang tao. Ngayon, sa ganito panahon na may multicultural, may una-una, dati babae, lalaki. Ngayon, marami na. Bahagari na. At saka banderitas na ng iba't ibang di ba, paano ako makikipagkapwa-tao kung asiwa ako sa kanyang pagiging ibang tao? Ngayon, ang susi ko dito, iniba ko, hindi ito pakikipag-ibang tao lang. Pakikipagkaibang tao. Ano ibig sabihin nun? Kapwa ay ka pawa. Pareho. Ano yung kaiba? Pareho kaming iba. Pangkaraniwan, pag majority ka, akala mo yung minority yung iba. Subukan mo mag-abroad, ikaw pala yung iba. At gusto mong kumain ng ganito, sasabihin, ang baho naman yan, i-assert mo, iba kami. Iba kami. May sarili kaming ganon. Maya-maya, ikaw pala yung iba. Yung hindi pa marunong makipagkaibang tao, kahit na nasa abroad na, sasabihin, oh, yung anak ni ganito nakapag-asawa ng foreigner. Foreigner? Ikaw nga yung foreigner eh. Sa ibang bansa. So, kuminsan, one way lang yung pagturing mo sa iba. Ang susi sa pakipagkaibang tao ay mamulat ka na ikaw pala ay iba din. At parehong ipinagdiriwang yung pagkakapareho natin bilang tao na may karapatan, pero bahagi pala ng pagpapakatao ay pakikipagkapwa-tao at bahagi rin ng pakikipagkapwa-tao ay pagturing na bilang kapwa ay kaiba din ako. At hindi lang sila ang iba, pati ako iba. Ibang reliyon, ibang rehiyon, ibang politika, pero hahanap tayo ng paraan na makipagdialogo, hindi para sila gawing pareho ko. Kundi para pagdiwang natin yung espasyo sa pagitan natin, na dito pwede tayong magkamay, magtapikan, magngitian, mag-usapan. So, into muna ako doon at salamat sa salamat sa mga reactions so far.
Thank you, Father Bert, for adding some more information to the last part. No, it's a new angle actually. I've never, personally speaking, I've never read anything like that yet. Not just yet. So.
Actually, kinakabahan nga ako yung bigay to kasi nga niluluto ko pa tong konsepto na to eh. Pero kung mayroong naghahanap ng thesis, ng topic na ganito, welcome naman, makikipagtulungan ako.
Thank you very much, Father. We're now going to proceed to, I think we still have a couple of sharers. We have the current president of the Ateneo Sarongbangi Junior Eagles, a socio-civic organization in Naga. We have with us Ms. Niljen Constantino. Niljen, are you still with us?
Hi. Hi po, good afternoon. Clear po yung voice ko?
Yes po.
Okay, thank you po. So, first po, yun po sa thematic session ni ni Father Alejo po. It was very knowledgeable po and it invites me to reflect and think po, paano ako magpapakatao virtually. So, and what struck me the most po on Father Alejo's representation were to be human is not to be a zombie and how to exercise magpapakatao. Okay po. So, we all know po yung characteristic ng zombie is they are mobile, able to move, but they are technically dead, without heartbeat, without emotion. They are rotting or decaying na po. Non-communicative, yung nagrarara na lang sila, and then unemotional, kasi wala nga po silang feelings and emotion. Has an insatiable hunger for human flesh and are violent. So, Father Alejo mentioned earlier that to be human is to be conscious of the connection of our beings. To be mindful or to be aware of the existence, similarity, and differences of each and every one of us. Pagpapakataong tao, pakikipagkapwa-tao, and pakikipagkaibang tao. Due to the implemented protocols that diminished personal encounters with our colleagues and friends or to go to places that we usually hang out to. With this, our daily life during this pandemic become routinary. Gigising tayo, magkakain, o open ng laptop or cellphone para sa online classes, same po sa teachers, professors, and sa mga students, pati na rin sa parents. the already popular social media was also reinforced. However, this does not wholly create rapport or harmonious relationship with others, di ba po ba? So, napaisip po ako, how can I exercise empathy, compassion, and create a nurture relationship, albeit virtually, in the new normal? Paano ako magpapakatao virtually sa harap lang ng computer po? So, as a student organization president, this is also a dilemma that I am currently facing po. I am not the type of person who can clearly express my feelings to others. And I can also effectively communicate my thoughts with, syempre, except when I write down my thoughts, I can expressly communicate it. Pero kung yung biglaan, wala na. Bahala na po ako yan. So, to answer Father Albert's invitation, for me to deepen my connection, relationship, and awareness to my friends or members and colleagues, or to be human po during this normal, is first to express my feelings and at the same time maintaining my control over it. With this, I believe po that I could easily exercise empathy, compassion, create and nurture my relationship, albeit virtually. To show compassion, in the student organization po, we usually do the karumustahan session before and after exams po, during our weekly meetings and whenever we have common time. We also say encouraging words and messages, and some also send their virtual hugs and hearts po sa messenger para for them to let them feel companionship during these hard times po, during this pandemic. That we can make them feel that we are their shoulder to lean on. Third, to show empathy when conversing with another, we give the courtesy of our undivided attention. The focused attention that I would appreciate or anyone would appreciate when their situation was my own. We show interest, acknowledge their feelings, and show the gratitude to them for opening up. And if we know that we could give an advice, we could give them to strengthen or enlighten them. That is how we show pagpapakatao virtually. By exercising compassion and empathy, we already create and nurture relationship. And also, we create trust, influence, and commitment with one another. Kahit po nasa harap lang kami ng screen, hindi namin personally na kikita ang isa't isa or physically nahahag namin ang isa't isa. During this time of pandemic, we believe po that we should be creative in dealing with people online to be able to interact and communicate with them effectively. We change our mindset or our way of thinking or viewing things for us to be more productive and efficient. Accordingly po, dun sa, I agree po with Father Alejo's how to be human ng papakatao. For us to nurture relationship, we should all exercise bayanihan po. Ayun sinabi mo po kanina na pakikipasan ng pagbabago. Pakikipagkapwa tao sa isip, puso at gawa, pagkilala, paggalang, at pagtatanggol sa kapwa-tao. That is all po. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neiljen. Father, would you like to respond? Or
Yes. Hindi, siguro isa pa.
Apo, sige po. Well, thank you, Neiljen, for your sharing. Maganda yung, siguro appreciate ko yung part na where you talk about rottenness within, no? Yung dead at heart, no? Parang may sira, parang may brokenness. I suddenly remember Father Bert. I think I read this from one of your works. You talk about corruption, the nature of corruption, a person who's broken from within. Father, would you like to expound on that? may
Pwede pakiulit konti.
Kasi Neil Jen po talks about rottenness, parang dead at heart, parang may sira sa loob, you know. But I've read in one of your major works, I think Tao Po Tuloy, where you talk about corruption, or I think isang book on, I think Ehem, I'm not sure where I got it, but you talked about corruption, the essence of corruption as brokenness, a heart that is broken.
Well, yes, corruption, the root word of corruption is core. Ano ba yung core? The heart. The word corruption comes from two words, core, which is the heart, and rompere, which is to have a crack, to break. So corruption is not just broken heart, but it is a heart that is not solid, it's not whole, because it has a crack. It is may lamat, may biyak. Kaya nga kapag kahit na hairline style of corruption, you have to patch it up kasi it might widen and it might destroy you. And the opposite of corruption is integrity, which is being whole. In mathematics, integrity comes from the word integer, which is a whole number. And what is a whole number? It's not a decimal point. It's not a fraction. It's whole. So a man or woman of integrity is whole. You're whole when what you think is what you say. What you say is what you believe in. What you believe in, you live in. What you live in, you teach. And what you teach, you practice. There is wholeness. There's wholeness in you because there's no internal qualms. Na ito yung prinsipyo ko, kaya lang kailangan ko maging practical. May mga ganun. May mga ganong klase, nahahati ka ngayon. At habang dumadami yung pagkakahati na yan, nabibiyak ka. So that is corruption. Now, ang challenge nga siguro, how do you keep yourself whole even in the context of the many chances to hide yourself, to hide your principles. Kasi nga, ang nakikita lang nila yung ipapakita mo eh. Kung saan mo iharap yung camera. Kung gaganyan mo, ganyan. Yun yung ipapakita mo. Pero sila naman, nagsususpecha na ang pinapakita mo, yung gusto mo lang ipakita. So, lalong-lalo na kung ang mga kabataan natin, nasanay lang na ang kaharap, puro cellphone. Alam mo, ang problema ko dyan, ang kaharap mo, flat, walang side view. Hindi katulad ng totoong pusa, totoong kahoy na pwede mong akyatin, totoong tao na pwede mong yakapin. Ito hindi eh. Sabi nga na iba, parang Bert, mas maganda, bumili ka ng mas magandang cellphone. Ito lahat, pwede ka manood ng basketball, ng research mo, ganyan. Sabi ko, hindi nga ako nag-asawa, no? Anong connection nun? Hindi na nga ako nag-asawa, tapos lahat pala na atensyon ko sa kanya. Hindi, pero ibig sabihin, yung maganda, i-connect natin to sa issue ng virtuality and integrity. Right now, we live in surfaces. We live in fleeting images. In one MTV, you have 2,000 images in 4 minutes. So, nung dati manonood ka ng TV, 2 channels. Ngayon, 200 channels. Palipat-lipat, may cellphone ka pa, meron ka pang may earphone ka pa. And so, everything is data. And you're not given time to come down and synthesize, analyze. Kaya maganda, binanggit din yung mindfulness ni Angelique, no? We need to assert mindfulness so that we can really see what is to be seen to touch what is to be touched. So all chances, please, all the chance you have to get in touch with the real, whether it's a real stone, it's a real soil, with a real worm, with a real butterfly, please don't rely on Zoom and don't rely on PowerPoint, because PowerPoint also has no side view. So get in touch with the real. Kaya nga ako, sa akin, no, nakakatulong yung pagtatanim ko na pinapakita ko sa karaniwang karunungan. Konti lang yung naaani ko, pero totoong talong, totoong okra. And there's no substitute to being in touch with the real, because you may be bombarded with surfaces and fleeting images, but you have a chance and a basis for comparison of what is really real. Yun. So salamat. And to be real is important for being a man of integrity. Kasi when you deal with images, sa peace, importante yung really real. Kasi it's very easy to kill a person when the person is tagged simply as an addict, a subhuman. He's not human, therefore he has no human rights. He is just basura. Pwede nang itapon. So in this kind of discussion, we are invited to touch on the real and really be dedicated to the real. Bahagi ng pagpapakatao, yung pagkapit sa totoo.
Thank you, Father. Ang ganda ng lengguwahe at ng mensahe. Thank you, Father.
Tama.
We now proceed to the last sharer. We have with us Joveline Competente. She is an officer from the Liga ng mga Estudyante sa Aghampang Politika, or LEAP. Are you still with us? Thank you for being with us. Go ahead.
Sir?
Yes po.
Good afternoon po.
Good afternoon.
Ayun po. Bear with me po with the noises po or background noises. So, hi po. Good afternoon. Unang-una po, maraming salamat po sa pag-imbita po sa akin dito. So what I realized on Father Alejo's talk on To Be Human is that being human is not basically centered on our physical attributes or what makes us different from other beings. Being human is a discussion that goes beyond our superficial understanding about human. And Father Alejo discusses beyond this point, like the human rights that every one of us assert of. And from that, I was moved. Because as far as I know, I am enjoying my rights as a human. But then there are other humans that are deprived of their rights, like the LGBT community and those victims of the EJK. And we all know that. Isa kasi ang human rights sa kasalukuyang usapin ng ating bansa. So, para po sa akin, hindi po magandang tingnan kapag ang isang demokrasyang bansa, katulad ng bansa natin, ang Pilipinas, ay may mga kaso ng pang-aabuso, lalo na sa mga karapatang pantao. And next, we humans are endowed with capacities that enable us to survive in this world. And aside from that, we have emotions that make us understand others or that make us connect with others. The second part of Father Alejo's talk, which is pagpapakatao, I gained three important things from those three parts of pagpapakatao. Yung pagiging taong tao, yung pakikipagkapwa-tao, at yung pakikiibang tao. So first is the importance of being a human. Yung halaga mo, yung halaga natin bilang isang tao. Regardless of your status in life, kesyo mahirap ka or mayaman ka, you should not give other people a chance to look down on you. Kasi God created us in His own likeness, making us all equal in His eyes. It is important that we know our worth so that people will not take advantage of us. Second is our relationship with others. Gaya ng nasabi ko kanina na tayong tao, merong emotions that make us ahead of us, or that make us better, that make us ahead or disconnect us with others to understand each one of us better. In this second thing that I gain I realized na this is not about us anymore. Yung ako lang or ikaw lang. The way we interact with others and how we affect others is an integral part of being a human. Last thing is that when we know that we are different from others, alam natin kung yung mga pagkakaiba natin, and we respect each other, like our opinions and perspectives, we are able to build a peaceful environment. Yung naiintindihan natin ng isa't isa. So, our opinions or perspectives are well respected by everyone because that is how a human should be. So, yun lang po. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat, Jovelyn.
Would you like to respond, Father?
Yeah. Thank you for highlighting this issue of respecting differences, yung pagiging kaiba. Doon sa isang episode ng Karaniwang Karunungan, nag-alis ako nasa garden ako, nag-alis ako ng guwante, sabi ko, nakakaaliw itong kamay, kahit sa isang kamay, daliri di magpantay. Kung pulbo nga sa tangkay, kung mahinog, hindi sabay. Di ba? No? May pagkakapareho. Lahat ng daliri nito nakakabit sa isang palad. Pero, hindi pwedeng magmalaki si hinlalato na porke matangkad siya. Kasi sasabihin naman ni Kalingkingan, ako naman yung nakakaabot sa pinakamalayong nota sa piano. Di ba? No? Palasingsingan ay paborito sa kasalan, pero importante yung ituturo. Huwag naman nilang pagtulong-tulungan yung apat, pagtulong-tulungan ng apat, itong pandak na hinlalaki. Dahil nung himiwalay si hinlalaki sa evolution, diyan na natuto ang tao na humawak ng tools. Pwede na siyang hunting, pwede na siyang magluto, pwede na siyang magsibak. Diyan na nagsimula ang sibilisasyon. Kaya hindi po pwedeng maliitin yung pandak na hinlalaki. So, ganun din naman, kuminsan naman, ang kaibahan ay nasa timing. Pare-pareho tayo, pero sa isang puno, hindi sabay mahinog. Kahit sa isang kamay, daliri di pantay, kung pulbo nga sa tangkay, kung mahinog, hindi sabay. Buti na lang din, di ba? Otherwise, isang anihan, tapos wala na. Kuminsan naman, yung kaibahan natin ay timing lang, timing. Titinurin yan. Magkakaroon din ng pagkakataon na maliwanagan din. At ako din, ganun din. Pabayaan nyo muna rin ako magkamali, konti. Parang ganun, ano. So, maraming salamat doon. Natatandaan ko rin na minsan naglalakad ako, nagkadikit yung racing car at saka school bus. Yung sa racing car, siyempre, karerista. Pero meron akong nakausap na karerista, siya yung champion ng kalimutan ng pangalan, napakabilis niya magmaneho, ang galing-galing niya magmaneho. Pero sabi ko, yung anak ba sa nag-aaral, yan sa Ateneo, ano sinasakyan niya? School bus. Bakit hindi ikaw ang magmaneho? Ay, delikado ako magmamaneho. Ibig sabihin, binibigyan natin ng trophy ang pinakamagaling, pinakamabilis na driver. Pero pag magre-recruit ka ng driver sa school bus, ayaw mo ng pang-ambulansya. Gusto mo pang school bus. Dahil gusto mo safe ang mga bata. May kanya-kanya tayong misyon at lugar dito sa mundo na to. Yun. So maraming salamat at sana yung makita natin, yung karapatang pantao ay karapatang pangkapwa. Yan.
Salamat, Father. Napakayaman. Pwede i-pick up na insights, i-develop further. But at this point, siguro, we'd like to apologize na for having to cut short the open forum in view of time constraints. No? But
magalisin ko na.
You're welcome to share your insights, your reflections on the comment section, so for other people to read well. No? So once again, we'd like to thank Paring Bert for his lecture, for his responses, our faculty and student reactors, of course, those who participated in our conversation this afternoon, We also hope that through the discussion, we would find ourselves disturbed and reawakened, no? Once more in the call and in the journey of becoming human. Uh, but before we proceed to awarding of the Certificate of Appreciation, we'd like to call on muna Mr. Jeril Kaayaw, our Program Officer for Student Leadership Development for Synthesis. Sir Jeril?
Good afternoon to everybody. Good afternoon po kay Paring Bert, to our dear actors po, si Dr. Songko and Sir Ringo, and to our student reactors. So first of all, para since we are overextended na rin po kahit papano, I'll give a short synthesis na lang po on what Paring Bert has presented to us. So basically, for the first part is because what human being is, or the question, I think the overextended or lingering question ever since when people had the capacity to know or to question themselves about what humanity is. And over the course of the years, it has changed. Pabago-bago na, kung ano ba talagang pagiging tao. And I think Paring Bert also discussed about the evolution of man. Right now, we're in this stage now. We're very dependent in technology, not only because it helps us in making our lives easier, but also because of it's also essential na for how we live now. Um, Once you wake up, the first thing you get is a phone or anything and technology, which makes life very easy. But in the context of that, parang nakikita ko nga habang nag-improve yung technology, parang nag-degrade yung tao. I often talk about it with my parents, with my father, especially na sabi niya sa akin, dati hindi naman ganito ka yung mga tao, pero bakit ngayon na naglalaganap yung technology, parang mas naglalala or parang nagde-degrade lalo yung tao. Which is technically nangyayari ngayon eh. Sometimes we forget to respect other people's, which is very inherent or very practical, which was very basic. Yun yung nagiging parang, I think, dilemma ng pag-unlad ng isang tao. Moving on to the second part ni Paring Bert, I think quote or saying in philosophy during my college days is very with regards to this, especially yung pagkakaibang tao. We are all connected. Pag ang sinabi nga, lahat tayo may pagkakapareho. Yun ang pagiging tao. Pero sa pagkakapareho dito, doon natin makikita yung differences natin. And sa pagiging different natin, doon nakikita natin ang similarities natin. I think it's a quote by Father Ferriols, if I'm not mistaken, in his book. It really encapsulates what being human is right now. And especially in this technology-driven life, going forward, we must always remember that we are human beings first and foremost. At the same time, we also ought to treat other people the way they should be. Nakakatuwa yung mga reactions ng mga Dr. Songko, ng mga students, especially with regards to dignity of human people. Especially ngayon, yan ang parang ang nagiging basehan ng dignity ng isang tao ay yung likes, shares, or anything else in social media, what makes you popular, which is not true. Dignity of a person is innate and cannot be replaced or hindi siya magiging wala siyang measurement. So I think that should be a reminder for us, for everyone, na alalahin natin, despite the advancements, kung ano man tulong ng technology, tao pa rin tayo. And we need to treat other people, kahit kaaway mo, kahit different perspective, na they are people too who deserve rights, serve yung mga essential innate qualities ng pagiging tao. So yun lang naman po.
Thank you very much, Sir Jeril. At this point, we'd like to present our Certificate of Appreciation to Father Albert Alejo. Please allow us to read the citation. Ateneo de Naga University, Office of Student Affairs, in cooperation with the Philippine Association of Practitioners of Student Affairs and Services, Region 5, presents this certificate of appreciation to Father Albert Alejo of the Society of Jesus in grateful recognition of his generous service as resource speaker in the webinar titled TBH, To Be Human, Reintegration in the New Normal, held on the 30th of October 2020, given on the same day at the Ateneo de Naga University, Naga City. Signed, Mr. Leo Jeremiah Arnel O. Kaayaw, Program Officer for Student Leadership Development, Mr. Rodolfo S. Virtus Jr., Director of Student Affairs, Mr. Randy P. Iniego, PAPSA's Region 5 President, and Father Roberto Ezekiel M. Rivera of the Society of Jesus University President. Maraming salamat po, Father Bert. Salamat sa pag-oon. We now have come to the end of our program. Again, to those who registered, electronic certificates of attendance will be provided after accomplishing the evaluation form. Please find and click on the link posted on our FB comment section below. We also would like to thank the following: Universidad de Santa Isabel, UST Legazpi, the Office of Mission and Identity, headed by Ms. Janet Badong Badilla, our CIFP and NSTP formators, headed by our very own Sir JC De Los Reyes, and of course to Bicol Council of Deans, Directors of Student Affairs and Services for their support. Very much. We hope that we not only learned but also enjoyed the webinar. In the midst of this new normal, we continue to journey together in the search of our common humanity. Thank you and see you on our next webinar series.
Thank you, Father.